Hey everybody, Nathaniel Bungie here for TechSession, and today I have a look at what I use to repair devices with. All of these tools pretty much come from iFixit, and as I went over in my last video, iFixit sells repair parts and tools, and they also provide guides for pretty much any device you need to fix. So, pretty much I'm going to be walking you through all of their tools that I have. And of course they're not all tools, some of them just help with repairs in general, but we'll go over everything that I use when I'm fixing a device. And first of all, we're going to start off with one of the things I use most often. And this is the iFixit Magnetic Project Mat. Pretty much what this thing does is whenever you're taking apart a device, you stick your screws on here, and it's magnetic and they'll stay on there. And they also provide this nifty little pen here, so you can pretty much write like wherever your screws come from. Just label it in the box that you got them in. And I believe this is some sort of special ink. It's like a German-made pen or whatever, and basically it doesn't smudge. So you can see here I'm pushing, and I mean, of course it'll erase if I push, but it doesn't just smudge if you brush your hand over it, which is a really good thing to have during repairs. And there's a little eraser on the back of the pen too if you don't want to use your finger. And yeah, that's pretty much the Magnetic Project Mat, and the magnet here is really good too. You could turn the whole thing upside down and your screws wouldn't even fall off. So that's that. We're going to move on to the next thing. Now I like to organize my little desk that I have by what the tools do. So first we're going to start off with the section of the desk, a little compartment that deals with prying and opening things. And of course that's going to entail a bunch of different tools, and these have been sourced from multiple locations. Pretty much all of them from iFixit though, except I have this crappy little suction cup that I used when I bought a kit off of Amazon when I was starting out. I will never do that again, that kit sucked. So yeah, I got a crappy suction cup. We're not going to ever use that thing. But we'll start off with something that I use to get into every single iPhone, and that is indeed a suction cup. I got more than one suction cup here. They all work, because whenever you're opening up an iPhone, you need to put the suction cup on the screen and it'll pull right off. And that's why I have suction cups. And yeah, that's about all I can say about suction cups. They suction onto things. So, next thing in the prying section, we have a bunch of these little opening picks, also from iFixit. What do these do? They pretty much pry into any section of a device where you might need to get a small tool in there just to maybe lift something up or open it. As you can see, they're flexible, so they're really good at getting into tight spaces. They're insanely thin, smaller than a guitar pick by far. And yeah, I use those in a lot of repairs. Mostly I use them in iPad repairs because you have to get under the glass if the glass is cracked, and it works really good for it. The next tool, indispensable, is a spudger. You must have at least one or two of these in your collection. And what do spudgers do? They're pretty much prying tools. They poke, they pry, they lift, and they even have a little nifty little notch there, and you can use it to grab a wire and move it out of your way if you need to. And I own, I think, 4 of these, and that's because the tips of these really sharp, they wear off over time, and I've tried to sharpen them, and pretty much it doesn't turn out too pretty, and I don't think you're supposed to sharpen them anyway, so yeah, those are spudgers. Oh, here we go. This is the crappy spudger I was talking about. Try to sharpen it. Obviously didn't work out too well. The end is worn down. And you can compare it to one of these. This is a brand new one that I unboxed in the last video, actually, and I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but especially with the ends, you can tell. I definitely don't have manual focus on this camera, but there we go. This is obviously the new one compared to the old one. I tried to sharpen that in a pencil sharpener and it really didn't work out too well. So yeah, that's the crappy spudger I was talking about. Next thing that I have in my section of opening and prying tools is this thing. I don't know why I put it in that section, but it's pretty much just a paper clip that I bent into the perfect shape to fit into a 24-pin motherboard power connector. And I use this to test out power supplies. You just stick one end in the green, one end in the black, if I remember correctly. Plug it in the wall, and if the power supply fan runs from this thing shorting out the pins, then you got a good power supply. So I don't know why I put it in the prying section, but it was there, and it works pretty good. The next thing one of my favorite tools. This is called the Jimmy. It's from iFixit, and it's a very thin little metal blade that you can use to get into pretty much any device imaginable. Now, this thing does not get into spaces as good as these do, partly because these can bend a lot more and they don't damage your device, but I still like it because it's very flexible. And yeah, this is another thing that you just have to have in your repair kit. And then we have a whole bunch of these little things that they used to be called iPod opening tools, I believe, but now they're just called opening tools. Use these things to pretty much pry into any device you need to. This specific one right here is used a lot of the time in an iPad repair where you need to lift up the glass. You're just going to put this in there by the volume button, lift up the glass, and you use these picks to hold it up. And yeah, pretty much any application where you're going to need to be prying something and you don't want to damage it or you need to get into a small space, you're going to use opening tools. I probably have 15 or 20 of these things because they wear out fast, they're single use. But if you're really smart with them, you can make them last longer than that, and I usually do. And then lastly, I have this thing. It also came in that crappy kit where that old suction cup was at. You can see them over there. I'm going to throw this over there too, because it doesn't do anything. I don't know why I still have it, but it's crappy, and it came from that Amazon seller. Buy from iFixit if you're going to buy anything. So yeah, there's everything that's in my little prying compartment. And again, they're used to open, pry, lift, whatever you need to do to gain access to a device or to basically remove cables or work your way through a device is what you're seeing right here. Now, time to move on to the next section, which is my crappy set of screwdrivers. And first of all, this bag came from an old iFixit toolkit that I bought, the Essential Electronics toolkit. Pretty much just had a set of screwdrivers, and I'll go over that pretty soon, but all these screwdrivers you're seeing here came from third-party kits that were selling parts or whatever, and they just so happen to come with screwdrivers. I don't ever touch them, but I mean, they're here if I need to give one to somebody to use or whatever. So there's no way I'm going to be giving out my 54-bit driver kit, and that's what I'm going to be going over pretty soon. But anyway, those are the crappy screwdrivers in my iFixit bag. I don't know if you can pick up one of these from their website. If you can, I'll leave a link in the description if I remember. We'll see if I do remember those. So there's my crappy screwdrivers. Next you will find an iFixit metal ruler. I never use it, but I got one of these in the Essential Electronics Toolkit and with the Tech Toolkit. And pretty much a metal ruler. If you ever want to measure anything, just go ahead and measure, I guess. And then you have something very important for a safe repair. You have an ESD safe wristband or ankle strap, however you want to use it. Pretty much make sure this metal part right here is making contact with your skin, and you clip this into preferably a grounding plug of an outlet. iFixit does sell an adapter to do that easily. Just pull this off and the little banana connector will go into your grounding pin. Take caution when you're doing this. Don't do it if you don't know what you're doing because you can get shocked, but basically it provides a ground between you and, well, the ground, so you don't zap the crap out of a device that you're fixing. Because ESD, electrostatic discharge, kills a lot of devices if you don't know what you're doing when you're repairing. You also want to have a good workstation, such as this one, made of a hard material. You do not want to do it on a bed or on a pillowcase, something like that. Just something that's non-conductive will not generate static. Next up, I have the little iFixit dust blower here. Cheaper than a can of compressed air that you need to buy all the time. You just squeeze it and pretty much it blows out air. And this is really good for getting dust off of your device. And I use this pretty much every time I open up the device. So I think this thing was around $8 on iFixit, I don't remember for sure. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a little metal nozzle, rubber bulb, whatever you want to call it. You squeeze it, puts out air, and not much more you can say about that. Then I have an old toothbrush. Pretty much anybody can use one of these if they want to clean out a device. I'm too cheap to buy the iFixit brushes that they sell, which would probably work a lot better than this thing. And you can see it's kind of dirty and seen a lot of wear, but it does the job if I need to get corrosion out of a device or whatever really quickly. Use this with some isopropyl alcohol and it'll pretty much clean anything. Speaking of isopropyl alcohol, if you use that with a microfiber cloth such as this one, it works very well for cleaning off pretty much any screen you're ever going to come across. The next part of my tools has the cable management stuff that I went over in the last video. So I won't touch on that, but we will get into the next thing, which is the iFixit 26-bit driver kit. And as you can see, it provides a kind of crappy screwdriver handle. All 26 of these bits just magnet into the end, and you use it as a screwdriver. You also have this tweezers here, which I don't really use too often, admittedly. I have a driver shaft extension, and I'm not going to go into much more detail about that because all these bits and stuff will be covered in my 56-bit driver kit. 52-bit? 54-bit, yes, 54-bit driver kit, which is in the Tech Toolkit, and I will get to that shortly. So we're going to put this off to the side. We're going to go on to the next screwdriver-related thing that I have. And this thing, I don't really know what to say about it, besides it sucks and don't buy one. It looked pretty great on iFixit because theoretically you could just be able to ratchet in your screws really easily without wrenching your wrist and wearing it out. But it didn't work that way. This thing is not very ergonomic at all. Way too big to fit my hand around and still reach that. And you also have to hold down this bit so it doesn't go sliding all over when you're trying to screw something in. Pretty much I whined to iFix about it. They said they understand and that they're going to discontinue selling these pretty soon, if I remember correctly. And I got issued store credit in return. By the way, thanks for that, iFixit. That's how I bought the cable management stuff. But yeah, I would not recommend buying one of these, but who knows, I might use it someday if I'm really in a pinch, because it really sucks. The next thing I have in the mini office repair tour, whatever I'm calling it again, is one of these babies, a heat gun. And if you've never really heard of a heat gun, it's pretty much like a turbo hairdryer, I guess. Basically, it blasts out over 1,000 degrees of heat on the high setting. Low setting, I think it goes up to like 700 degrees. And you use this to like melt adhesive, to shrink, heat shrink wrap. And you use that to like protect soldering joints or to join wires together. Basically, anything that you need a ton of heat, one of these babies is perfect for the job. And then we come to the star of the show, and that is the iFixit Tech Toolkit. You can pick one of these up from iFixit's website. I think it's like 50 or 60 bucks. Don't remember for sure. I got this one on a deal bundled with the magnetic mat, and I think it was like 70 total for them. Anyway, it was definitely worth it because you get a lot in here. You get an anti-static wrist strap like we went over before to protect you from the electrostatic discharge. And if you move up into this compartment, you get a couple of those opening tools that we went over before. You get a spudger, just like what we went over before. And then you get these 3 different tweezers. This one is a little right angle one. You pretty much just pull them off. And you use these to grab screws, to grab adhesive and pull it off. Just whatever you need to screw, or whatever you need to pull at that you can't get to with your hands. These tweezers are perfect for. And these are some pointy, non-right angle ones right here, as you can see. And if you look on the side, if it'll focus. Okay, anyway, if you look on the side, it says ESD safe. And I think I went over ESD before when I was talking about the wrist strap, but basically they're not bare metal, so these will not transfer static into your devices and maybe fry them. So you have your flat, pointy one, and then you have a flat-ended one. And this one would be what you use to like peel up labels and stuff. And they're very nice build quality too. They're made of metal, so I use these quite frequently when I'm working on devices. And I'll kind of bump that. Then you come over here, you get a useless ruler like what I was talking about before. And then you get some of these babies. These are some metal spudgers. And just like with the first spudger, you use these to peel stuff up. You use them to get labels off, to lift up cable, just basically anything you need to pry with. This flat one is especially useful for spreading thermal paste if that's how you do it. And it includes 3 of them in this kit, each with a different tip. And you can see this one's got a curve. And these are all metal, not ESD safe for that very reason. They got some nice grip on there, if that'll focus. But yeah, it's kind of like a ridge design on there so you can get a good grip on your tools while you're working. And then you get one of these. These things are actually pretty nifty. This is called the iFixit Tech Knife, I believe. Basically, you just push on this thing, and the knife blade will pop out. And this blade is very, very sharp. It's pretty much a razor blade plus a utility knife. And the nice thing about this is it's a snap-off blade, so if you can see those little lines in there, those are little perforations, I guess you'd call them. And that's where the blade can snap off when you need to get a new one. So if your blade starts to become dull, you just pull off this back. If I can get it. Okay, I can't get it now, but yeah, basically this metal part on the back right here, connected to the clip, you pull that off, and there's that crack in the back. There we go, there's focus. So there's a crack in the back. Basically, you just slip it over the end of the knife blade, get one of the perforations lined up with the edge, and you just break it off. And then you'll have a new section of the blade exposed, nice and sharp, just like you would want it to be. Moving on in the kit, we have the star of the show. This is probably the second most used thing I have. This is the iFixit 54-bit driver kit. And I'm not going to go into detail about all these bits on here. You can kind of look at them for yourself, but in summary, there are just a ton of bits in this thing. Some of them I'm probably never even going to touch, like the triangle. I believe you can use those to open up like McDonald's kids' toys or whatever. I don't know why you'd want to, but okay. One thing I'd like to point out is you do get a magnet in there. The magnet is very handy if you, for example, drop a screw on the carpet or drop a screw just anywhere on your desk. You could just put the magnet bit on the end of the driver, kind of wave it around, and it'll pick up anything metal, which does include any screws you've dropped. You can see down here, it includes an adapter so you can use it with a standard 1/4-inch screwdriver. I do not currently have one of them, but if you happen to have one and you like that better than the included one, you could certainly do that. The extension that they include doubles as a T-handle for extra torque. I find myself using that quite often. You just slip it through the little hole in the side of the driver right here, and yeah, it gives you extra grip, extra torque. And then that's about it for the back, I believe. To open it up, you just push it on the tab, top pops off, and I'm just going to go over the general driver and stuff. This is the driver itself right here. You get some nice O-rings, rubber O-rings for grip. This whole entire driver is metal, so there's no chance pretty much that you're going to be breaking it or busting it. There is some nice focus. We got the hole in there like I was talking about where you can slip in the T-handle for torque. And at the end of it, I don't know how well this is showing up, but there we go, yeah, the end spins, so that way when you have it in your hand and you're actually screw driving with it, you don't have to pick up your hand every time, relocate, pick it up, relocate. You can just keep that in your palm and go ahead and use your screwdriver. And I don't believe I mentioned this before, but it's a magnetic handle, so you just put something in there and it'll just stick right in. Just like so. And this is the extension I was referring to. You just put a bit in the end, and it'll give you about an extra 2 inches or so, maybe 3, just so you can get into the deeper places. And one over on the back of the container, this is your adapter to use it with a 1/4-inch driver. This will go into the driver, and this will go into the bit. And then right here, you find something that I've never used, if I remember correctly, and I don't believe I probably ever will. And what is that? It is the flexible extension. So this thing is flexible, just like its name would suggest. You put this end into the screwdriver, you put your bit in this end, and pretty much it'll still twist at any angle, so you can be able to screw or whatever into really tight places. Again, I've never used it, don't plan on ever doing so, but it's there if you need it. And the bits are in here in nice little rubber blocks, pretty much, with holes cut out on them. They're nicely labeled so you can see what they are. And basically when you need to use a bit, you just pull it right out. And when you're done with it, you can put it back, just slip it right back in. These will all magnet into the end of the driver. And something I would like to point out is, say for example you grab out a couple bits and you don't know which one is which, so you get them all mixed up, and you're like, oh, which one's my Phillips 00 bit? I don't know where that one should go. If you look on the side of the bit, I don't know how much you can see that on here, there we go, it says PHOO, Phillips 00. So you're going to find the Phillips 00 on your little rubber block, and it just slides right in. And then you got your next one, And this should be the Phillips. Yep, Phillips O. You can see that right there. So now you know exactly which hole it has to go in. So again, you're just going to take your little rubber brick, find the Phillips O, and it just goes right in there very nicely. And you've got a couple rows of bits in here. Well, I guess more than a couple. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 9 rows of bits, so pretty much you're all set, 6 of them in each. The 0.8 on the end over here, this is used to remove SIM cards. I happen to use it quite a bit. And yeah, it pretty much is any bit you're ever going to need. There's Torx, Torx security, there are square bits, hex bits, triangular bits, Phillips bits, I mean, you name it, it's probably in here. And then way at the top, like I mentioned, I'll just pull it out so it doesn't all tip out. You have your little magnetic part right here. Just stick it in the end of your driver, wave it around, and this will pick up anything metal that you need to pick up. So we're going to go ahead and put these back. I guess it's labeled with a magnet too, I never noticed that, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and put these back because that is it for the Repair Toolkit tour. I know this video is kind of long, but I hope you found it worth it. So now you can see what I use whenever I'm repairing devices, be it an iPad, an iPod, iPhone, or anything even as big as a Windows desktop computer or some sort of a laptop. Basically, the screwdriver kit can handle anything. All these tools I own can handle anything. And in the end, you're going to be better off because of iFixit's tools. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they sell parts, tools, guides, anything you need to get your repair done. I guarantee they have it. So I'm going to leave links in the description for all these tools and just a general link to iFixit. And I hope you'll find this video interesting. You'll consider to pick up some of this stuff yourself. You definitely don't need to buy as much as I did because I pretty much do this in my spare time for people, fix their devices, and I make money off of it. So if I can even gather all these on screen, you're going to be able to see what I mean. You definitely don't need all of these tools, but if you're in it, like I am, go ahead and pick some up. So, till next time, this is Nathaniel Bungie from TechSession. See you later.